bridges, bike paths, sidewalks. These are common everyday things that most of us take for granted. But these transportation features don't appear overnight. They don't magically come into existence with the wave of a wand. They are the results of careful planning and scientifically engineered construction that follow strict laws, rules, and procedures. From start to finish, the process can take months and even years. But when it comes to the safety and mobility of our people, a successful transportation project completed on time and within budget is worth the wait. This is the story of how the Colville Tribe's Department of Transportation works efficiently and expertly to create better walking, biking, and driving conditions now and into the future for the people of the Colville Reservation.
Transportation means a lot. Transportation is economic development, transportation's healthcare, transportation's education. None of this is possible without transportation. Without transportation, we can't develop as a nation. We have to have this infrastructure in place to encourage development here, to encourage businesses to come here. When that starts happening, we'll improve the overall socioeconomic conditions here on this reservation, or in this little community.
In the old days, getting around the reservation was basic and simple. For centuries, native foot trails crisscrossed the countryside, connecting villages and communities. As time progressed, our means of transportation also progressed. You could ride a horse, paddle a canoe, take a ride in a horse-drawn wagon, or later, jump into your fine automobile. The few roads we had were rugged dirt and gravel pathways that were dangerous, poorly maintained, and bad on your car's suspension, and maybe even your back.
All I can remember when I was a little girl, the old way of transportation was horseback. We went everywhere horseback. I had to get on a horse and ride almost every weekend to town to get our mail and buy something for home because, we ran out of groceries, it was a large family like that. My grandmother had a buggy, one horse buggy, and so she said, "You have to come with us. We're going to town in a buggy." So I'd go with her. And later on, the Model A's came, and Mom had a Model A. And Mom told me the first time they went to Omak, it was just a dirt road, before at the time. And they were going through the big rocky canyon where there's shale rock. And in those days they had those canvas tops. And Dad said he's driving along, all of a sudden, cougar come crashing through the top. And my mom, he saw it coming towards the car, and it went right to the top. And Dad said, "Throw her out." And I was in a baby board. So Mom threw me out and jumped up behind me. She said, "All I did is cry, not a mark on me."
My, how times have changed. Modern modes of transportation can get you from here to there in record time. But these systems, which most of us take for granted, are costly and time-consuming to build and maintain, as we shall see. The process for building a road, a bridge, or even a sidewalk is governed by planning and engineering procedures that have been created by engineers and mandated by federal, state, and tribal laws. These have been put into place after decades of research and the evaluation of the most successful ways and means of road construction and maintenance. In recent years, the personnel of Colville's own transportation department have been trained in these procedures and have applied them to projects on the reservation.
It is the project manager's job to incorporate these factors into all phases of a transportation project. Broadly speaking, the phases of a project are simply 1. Planning, 2. Design, and 3. Construction. But as we'll see, a transportation project is not always as easy as 1, 2, 3.
There are certain hoops you have to jump through in order to get things accomplished. And when tribal members request a road, feasibility studies, the cost, how many people is it going to serve? All of these questions need to be asked and answered. And so that takes time.
There are definitely timelines involved with the work that we do in transportation. Coordination with all of these partners requires input from several areas, which can slow up a process considerably. It can cause your project to be delayed sometimes for weeks or months at a time, and it can get a little bit frustrating for people who are waiting for these things to get done.
The major challenges with the tribe's transportation program today are keeping up with the ever-changing laws that come down from the federal government and understanding all the planning requirements and the road construction, the contracting requirements that are involved. That's a very big and complicated process.
The Colville transportation program up there at the tribes, they have all the elements. They are so fortunate. They have good planners, they have good engineers, they have proficient and competent maintenance staff. They have it all in that shop, and they're very, very fortunate that they do have that. Not too many tribal transportation programs have what the Colville Tribes has, and I'm very honored to be able to work with them in partnership.
Funding for reservation road projects comes primarily from federal government sources, including federal highways and the Bureau of Indian Affairs, along with construction resources supplied by county and state governments. When it comes to financing transportation projects on the Colville Reservation, rest assured that no funds are taken from tribal members' resources. In other words, no dollars earmarked for tribal members are used.
Every tribe is allocated a proportion of the funding that comes down through the Highway Trust Fund. And if you don't dot your I's, cross your T's, do that sort of thing, and have a program in place here with staff that can support that, then you're never going to get any of your project work done. Funding of tribal transportation is not what it should be. The big funding that came in the early 70s and early 80s went away. It never really came back. It's always a challenge to get enough funding to upkeep your roads or to build better, safer roads, because the funding comes down from Congress through appropriations, and that budget gets smaller and smaller every year. The budget cuts seem to trickle down all the way down to the tribe's transportation funding level, and that's what's hurting us. The funding isn't getting any better, so we have to be real effective to utilize the dollars that we do have and spend them wisely.
Tribes must continually and repeatedly fight for every dollar they receive for transportation projects. That forces tribal DOTs to stretch their resources beyond any reasonable expectation. This dollar-stretching feat applies to equipment, manpower, materials, and even office supplies.
What we try to do is make projects that benefit the most people, because we don't have a lot of funding to work with. One of the changes that we're trying to implement, going forward, is leveraging what resources we have. So our main goal is to just allocate what resources we receive, which isn't adequate. We try to allocate resources to the best projects that we can. We receive federal funding, so there's a lot of strings, like a lot of hoops we got to go through to implement anything. So we'll drive on a road or go in a parking lot or whatever and see it's in bad shape, and it's like, well, we run this program, why don't we do anything about it? And if I have that question, I assume the public has that question, and we get a lot of complaints, but it's not as simple as just going and getting our graders and getting some equipment and bringing it over there. There's a lot of hoops we got to go through. There's environmental review, and to expend federal funding on a project, it has to be on our official roads inventory. And to get something on the inventory, there's a lot of hoops.
What I'd like to say about the Colville Tribe's Transportation Department is they are very technically proficient. They have the right staff involved in their work. However, it's difficult when you have that limited funding to ensure the safety of the public sometimes. What it takes is taking a proactive approach, doing as much as you can with not too much. We've been doing that for years, unfortunately, in our infrastructure.
In spite of funding and personnel shortages, there are career opportunities in the field of transportation for tribal members.
A lot of tribes, not just Colville, are getting very active. They're getting very engaged with the transportation planning and they're making headway. I think the biggest headway that we've made so far is that we've been able to train tribal members to understand transportation planning. We've been able to train tribal members to get involved with the federal government and state government, understand how their funding systems work.
The tribe's own William Marchand is a prime example of someone who has stepped forward to help meet the reservation's transportation challenges.
I think transportation is one of the few policy areas where tribes can make a major impact, or like an individual can make an impact. And that's what initially got me interested. Because initially it seems kind of like a boring topic, but there's just so much that pertains to transportation. It's more complex than it appears. Well, when I was looking at graduate school, there was a lot of options I was pursuing. So I got an offer from Eastern Washington University. They're like the top tribal planning college, and they also offered me a fellowship. I mean, there's just a lot of opportunities they was offering, so it kind of tipped the scales as far as pursuing planning. They had a lot of transportation related classes, so that's really where kind of the ball got rolling as far as my getting knowledgeable about this stuff. We have the largest funded transportation program in BIA Northwest. We have the largest reservation in the Northwest. So like my job isn't just working with roads, it's working with transit, it's working with other jurisdictions. It's kind of a jack of all trades. So I'd say the opportunities would mainly be in policy and dealing with transit and safety and intergovernmental type stuff that would be applicable elsewhere. So if someone had like a policy background, they'd be a fit for the department. And then on the construction side, you have construction inspectors, and we have people that do just general maintenance. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of opportunities. I mean, you don't necessarily have to have a roads background to be a fit for this department. Something that's important is mobility. So right now our public transportation consists of just two shuttles, like one that goes from one side of the reservation to the other, and there's another one that goes from north to the south. We would like to expand that, so we'll have openings for a lot of shuttle drivers, and we'd like someone to come in to run specifically transit. So there's going to be a lot of positions in the future that we would like to fill.
But a person doesn't have to go to college or become an engineer to take part in the reservation's transportation process. There are opportunities for every tribal citizen to participate. Actually, that's an understatement. There's a vitally important need for every tribal member to participate in the process, to step forward and to state clearly what our transportation needs and concerns are.
Every single month, the council will have a district meeting where they meet with the district and people can show up and voice their concerns. And who they put on the agenda is programs, and or they discuss topics they plan on approaching in the future. So that's one avenue where people can voice their concern and provide input, is at these district meetings. Another avenue is we have a website, and with the website I've put our TIP, our list of projects. I've put our long-range transportation plan. Social media is pretty important these days. And I created a Facebook page and a Twitter page and all this kind of thing. We've made an effort to try to make it easier for people to come to us with their concerns.
Whether it's at district meetings, whether it's by letters, whether it's by Facebook, telephone, interact with our transportation and transit program to provide your comments, your concerns, and let us know what the issues are that you think are the most important, so we can prioritize them and address them.
We all want to save lives and prevent accidents and deaths on our reservation roads.
I work with a lot of different tribes, and everywhere I go, I ask people, do you have deaths in your family? And pretty much universally it's yes. They have a brother or sister or nephew, cousins, maybe all of the above. They've been killed in accidents, and it's a lot of badly designed roads. Typically there's no striping, there's no guardrails oftentimes. Just goes on and on and on, you know. And that's one of the reasons I got involved with roads. I've lost a daughter in a traffic accident. I've lost a brother. I've lost a cousin, and that's just my family. And we have 9,000 Colvilles. Almost everyone's got the same story, you know.
My mom got in a car wreck. It was just at least, 7 years now? She got in a car wreck. She was coming back from OMAC. She was actually coming home. She was with some friends. She was coming home and she wrecked in OMAC. Got in a real bad car wreck. My mom passed away. My little brother got in a car wreck. He was 2 and he snapped his spinal cord. He was sitting in the back seat. We were not even going that far. We were going just to Elmer City from here. Right by a highway tire is where he got in a car wreck. Car wreck with my mom she was just passing someone, and she didn't see the semi. It was like a dip in the road. She didn't see the semi over there, and she went head on. And the one with my brother, I think it was dark, and they swerved and missed a deer, and they hit the guardrail and ran into the ditch.
Walked on the highway at night and I almost got hit at least 3 times. Yeah, and it's pretty scary because there's major drunk driving in Keller. And I actually lost some of my family on that road. My cousin Bo, he was drunk driving and he just shot right off the road. And and I actually got in a wreck too last year, which almost took my life, and on Jack Road. That was very scary. And me and my friend, we were going down. It was winter. It just started snowing, so I slowed down. And all of a sudden, I just get straight, like, slingshot right off the cliff. And that cliff was like that steep. And as the car tumbled, I didn't wear my seatbelt. I woke up and I was under the steering wheel of my car. And in the creek. I climbed out, I pulled my friend out, and I dragged her. As I messed up my fingers too, these don't go straight, and I have a dent in my head. I had to pull her from her seatbelt because she was wearing it. I had to pull her, get her out of my car, and we both lost our shoes, and I found my shoes, but she couldn't find one, so we wore the same shoes, so I gave her my right shoe to help her get up the hill. As I was going up the hill, I was losing conscience, and I was losing a lot of blood, and it was very scary. And I had to climb up, carrying my friend who's like 3 feet taller than me and heavier than me, so it was pretty bad.
thing with rural transportation is everyone, to get anywhere, you got to drive long distances, and this really emphasizes the importance of improving our roads and making them safer. And we've had like high school age people die in accidents a lot more often than they should, and it's mainly due to road design.
The tribes originally were put on reservations as really kind of a prison to separate tribes from the rest of the world. But if you go back into the 1800s, I was reading a note from General Sherman. He said, like, "Dear Mr. President, this land around here is so rugged and impassable. It would be a good place to put the Indians."
Many of these roads were designed to be haul routes for, commercial products like forestry products. They were designed for logging trucks and heavy equipment, and I see there are still a lot of accidents just because these roads were never designed for the traffic needs of today.
We're prioritizing what we want to work on and what we think the solutions are. And of course, we have lots of needs yet, and as we get along and grow, those needs never go away. But we're making a lot of progress.
We all especially want what's best for our elders and children. It's both a responsibility and an honor to work for the good of our people.
I look at all of our roads today and I remember the stories of our elders and which way we used to go to Buffalo, we used to call it, or which way we used to come up to Columbia and cross over the land because there were roots there or eggs to harvest from waterfowl. The trails were always maintained. So to our young people, we have that same responsibility. To all of our citizens, we have the same responsibility to keep in mind that we are also stewards of our transportation corridors, our network of transit routes. Also, we have responsibilities to those who come after us to make sure that they'll have an easier path to move forward into the future.
We got to envision the community we want and then build the infrastructure there and put it in place and then watch everything else grow around that.
We're one big family here on the reservation, so every life affects the lives of others. It's our community, and we need to make sure that that continues.